We're talking a little bit about, flip season. Of course, that's during the season when Oklahoma's actually able to show, see, look, this is what we have to offer. Look at what we've produced out on the field. And that comes in many shapes and forms. But when it comes to flip season, I think from the fans' perspective, in many ways, if you pay attention to social media, you see this. If you pay attention to your live chats and stuff on YouTube, your comments on YouTube, and as well as I can see on ours as well, it doesn't feel to the fan base that the 2026 cycle has gone their way. Of course, I would say, and I'm sure you would agree, that's a little too early. Pump the brakes, because there is such a thing as flip season, and Oklahoma's done pretty well in that part of the commitment stage. Specifically at wide receiver, I feel like Oklahoma fans did not feel like it went that way. Of course, with Gross, if he ever decides to make that commitment and come out, it seems like we've been waiting for the last month and a half or so for that. And then, of course, I feel like tight end was maybe another group where they felt that way until, of course, Tyler Ruxer committed. But with the commits that Oklahoma may have, quote unquote, missed, do you feel like there are any that Oklahoma feels like they have a good chance, or maybe some that you feel OU would go after for that flipped commitment?
I think a ton depends not only on what Oklahoma does this fall, but on what several other programs do or don't do. Because, for instance, you look at a guy like Jordan Clay, the 4-star wide receiver out of San Antonio, who chose Baylor over Oklahoma in early July. Baylor's first 4 games of the 2025 season feature showdowns with Auburn, Arizona State, and SMU. There's a very real world in which Baylor is 1-3 after 4 games. And if that is the case, there will be trouble brewing in Waco. And all of the job security questions that seem to follow Dave Aranda for several years up until he was able to kind of stabilize things in 2024 and get that team on a roll down the stretch, they're going to crop up again. And that's likely going to sow seeds of doubt in the collective mind of Baylor's recruiting class as to whether they can and should hold together with the knowledge that Aranda might no longer be employed at the conclusion of the 25 season. And so if you're able to pair early season struggles from a program like Baylor with a strong early kick from Oklahoma, and, we look at that schedule over the first 5 games, it's not that difficult, Josh. Yeah, you play Michigan, you play Auburn. Both of those are home games. And then the other 3 tilts for OU: at home against Illinois State, on the road at Temple, at home against Kent State. 3 easy wins there. And so if those 2 things happen in conjunction, then you're looking at a very real flip possibility from a guy like Jordan Clay. What could happen, let's say, if Kentucky starts slowly? Kentucky beat out Oklahoma for 4-star wideout Dallas Dickerson back in June. If Oklahoma's 4-0 and Kentucky is 1-3, and I'd say that offhand, I don't know what their schedule looks like in September. I should research that before I tout that possibility. But you get the picture. Like, let's say Kentucky's scuffling and Oklahoma starts hot. Is there flip potential there? So there are several guys in this class that the Sooners are going to monitor. As to whether they really start pressing for a flip, I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis. And it's going to be a judgment that the OU staff and front office makes based upon how their own team is performing on the field versus how the program to which XYZ recruit is committed is performing on the field.
Yeah, and I would agree with that quite well. I think when it comes to flip season, like you said, it's not just about what your current team that is trying to pull that commitment, although I think that's probably the most important and the only one that you can control. Like you said, too, very, very well to pay attention to those that they've also committed to.